Hey, VJ, do you know, is today, can we go over the latest on Config Wizard today? Maybe? Hello. Hey, everybody. Hello, everyone. Well,
Hello.
I know some of you have been thinking about this question, and it just occurred to me what the deal is. The deal is these colors are not showing up correctly because they're green and they conflict with the green screen behind me. So in some respects, I guess I have a 5 going right through me. If I put my hand behind my chest, I wonder if you can see my hand through my... No, okay. Okay, hey, we're 3 after. How is everyone? Everyone else has webcams and, oh, Piyush does. There he is. Looking comfortably cool this evening, actually, Piyush. How's the temp?
Temperature is fine. I guess we are having slightly like cool down today. It's more like a rain day. It can like the next day there can be rain. It can be sometime.
Is it about rainy season time? Is that the deal?
It's about to come rainy season.
Nice, good deal. Mr. Kumar, Mr. Abhishek, you're on. Good, nice to see you, even though I don't hear from you in chat. Abhishek, what do you have for us today? Abhishek, are you there? Okay, maybe he's not. Okay, let's see. Well, we're 5 minutes after. Let's get started. Hey, it's Friday, April 16th, Layer5 community meeting. There are 15-ish or so of you on the call thus far. We've got a couple topics to go over today, but there's room for additional topics. I think, Dhruv, if you're going to talk about mesh map, please get that on the list. And what else? What other topics do we have? So Vinayak, you've got a little bit about, we have a discussion, I guess, about Learn Layer 5, potential use of Storybook. I'm going to give an overview of some of the initiatives that are going on. We've got a couple of announcements. We've got a couple upcoming talks. But what else do we want to talk about? Oh, VJ, are we, an update on Config Wizard would be great.
Yes, Lee. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
Actually, to be honest with you, I don't have a whole lot more. So basically, what we did was we started off with the mock-up.
You know what?
And
I think very good. Actually, save it for the topic if you would.
okay, okay. All right.
Yeah, I do the same thing every time. Nice. Okay, and it's a reasonable response. Hey, we're about, or if there isn't a bunch to tell, that's no problem. Okay, we got a couple of topics going on. So, all right, we've had a few newcomers into the community this week. So welcome all. Khan was introduced this last Wednesday. And so I don't think he's on at the moment, but Khan was one of them. And just looking over the attendees, I think, has everyone on the call introduced before? So Elizabeth, I'm pretty sure we've hit you at least once. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. I recall now. By the way, I like your GitHub user.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a fan of your GitHub username. It's cool.
Thank you.
All right, fair enough. All right, so good to have newcomers. Good to actually be able to celebrate folks or newcomers like Elizabeth and Joy and Cynthia and Blossom and a couple of others in there with respect to She Code Africa. That's such a cool thing that's going on. And it's so nice to watch as Ruth pulls that together. Just what a perfect program, perfect way for Ruth's talents to come together. Ruth, I see that you're on the call. Actually, speaking of, there's a draft. We have a Meet the Maintainer series, and so that might be something for you to highlight, and there might be some participation that you want to.
Yeah, sure. Let me put it in the meeting minutes.
Nice. Okay. Going through a couple of other announcements, including celebrating She Code Africa participants. One is that, like She Code Africa, there is. I have a hard time typing and talking at the same time. There's other internship programs that we participate in. One of those is the Linux Foundation's LFX program. It was formerly known as Community Bridge, and a pretty neat factoid statistic. I'm gonna ruin the meeting minutes for a moment and see if we can kind of hone in on this. Or maybe I should just pull up the webpage. But yeah, if you go out to the mentorship programs on Linux Foundation's page, you'll find Meshery right at the top. I guess with as many candidates, many applicants as there are days in the year, which is more than the Linux kernels program, which is, and Prometheus is a really popular project. So cool. I think that it goes without saying that speaks volumes to the way that you all interact with each other. A lot of folks come and they find friendly people. So, and they find interesting projects too. So that's pretty neat. Another announcement is that of one of the maintainers, Utkarsh Srivastava, whom I have a long history of trying to embarrass. I'm going to try to do that today, which is to say that Utkarsh has accepted an offer to join Layer5 and to sign up for a lifetime of indentured servitude, I guess. But to sign up to do more of what he's been doing. So that's a really, feels really great to be able to just reinforce and support the same things that Utkarsh has already been doing. So Utkarsh, welcome. Your two-toned green tie will be in the mail, I suppose. And in some respects, it's not a lot different than what Ruth is going to talk about uplifting the works of those that are here, about making sure that there's a public record and recognition for things that you're doing. So one of the, what would we call it? Initiatives or programs or things that we do to help uplift the projects and people in the community, Ruth is continuing a Meet the Maintainers series. Ruth, do you want to tell people what that means?
Oh yeah, sure. So hi everybody. So sorry, give me a second.
Sure.
Yeah, I was actually on a call and I forgot to, cut it off. So hi everybody. If you've not met me, I'm Ruth. I'm one of the mesh mates, and so Meet the Maintainer series is a way to, not just tell people about the awesome work that the contributors and maintainers have been doing, but also shine the light on Layer 5 project and what they are working on, and like promote them in the outside world, and get to know them too, because as well as they are contributing to Layer 5, to the awesome projects we have, they are also humans, and we want to get to know them as a person. So Meet the Maintainer series, it's about getting to know the maintainers, and I'm sure some persons do not know that this person is a maintainer, right? So I'm definitely sure that, as we just talked about Meet the Maintainer series, you know Michael is a maintainer. You might have not known that before, but now it's a way to put the spotlight, right, on this person, like on Josh. Josh has been so amazing so far, and we will get to read about him soon. Right, it's going to, by next week, it's the issue is going to like be worked on, and we're going to read about. I wanted to add the link to the doc, but I'll try to do that, um so you can, if you just want to view. But that's like, it's a really great way. I enjoyed working with Josh on this. I know I had to like send me Slack message, and also bubbly a lot. But yeah, so it's really awesome, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. So the link to the draft that Josh and Ruth have going on is here. There's a number of other posts that are on Layer5.io, blog posts that are from people who aren't maintainers. And as a matter of fact, I know we've said this any number of times on these calls, but I would encourage each of you to consider the Layer5.io blog as an open venue for you to talk about, reflect on things that you do here, or things that go on here, or
Yeah, exactly. Like you could just write about like your experience contributing to the R5, and just message me, and would do some editing, and put it up on the blog. So, and do not be scared if like you're not really we can help with that. Definitely. So feel free to want to post things. You can see, as Lee is projecting, we have like different categories, right? So if it could be about community, it could be you want to talk about a technical thing about something, because in as much as we have tutorials, we also need blog posts about technical blog posts, right? So you could also write about websites or something else.
yeah. As a matter of fact, Rafi, he's not on the call today, but he's a good example of a contributor that had joined, and well, had joined during Hacktoberfest, I think 2019, and we were working on the landscape. And he had he ended up writing 3 posts just describing his work, I think initially just what the ask was and his initial approach and kind of what the site looked. By the way, so whoa, this is a throwback, an oldie. Like this is what the landscape used to look like. Oof. It's part of what it used to look like anyway. And you could, yeah, it's like, wow, oh, wow, wow. Anyway, so he's off and has a full-time job somewhere else. He was a student at the time, and the posts, I mean, he couldn't have been more tickled to have his posts up here and to be able to point to them and reference them. And so it was, and so I guess just to reinforce that, it's not, there's a Meet the Maintainer series, but there's any number of other community or posts under community, which actually is Tanujan or other maintainers of this site. So here's something that's curious to me that I'm only just now kind of reflecting on, and that is, so all of you know that this site was recently entirely, completely overhauled. It's 10 times better than it was. It's a really, I'm super proud of what you all did to make this. It's a really cool site. And I'm just realizing something, but I've known this, but I don't think I've tried to show people. So just now, Ruth was saying, "Oh, hey, you know, there's the Meet the Maintainers, there's your experience, there's, you know, right on a technical topic with respect to the projects or the technologies that the projects use. These are all welcome things." And I was going to show that to everyone, and so I clicked on Community, and I had clicked on Community last night, and there were like 13 posts or something, and now there's only 6, and I was confusing myself, and just, I guess I'm learning aloud that, right, there are categories, and when someone creates a post, it can belong to a single one and only one category. It's like the main thing that the post is about. But, you know, like any topic that you write on, you know, it might, this one for Nikhil was about, you know, it falls into the community category. Is what that's about. But it also might be tagged with other things. And so this is why I thought there were 13, because there's 13 tagged with community. We got Meshmates. SMI conformance. So Naveen was with us. He was an initiator of our SMI conformance project, which I just got an email from Microsoft on. They're quite positive on what's the work that's going on there. So yeah, anyway, it's an open venue for you all. You know, please, by the way, if that's of interest to you and you feel like it's not, it's like, how do you get started, or where do you make a suggestion, or, you know, how do you vet whether or not a topic is appropriate? You can go to the community drive that all of you on the call have access to. Inside the community drive, there's a lot in here. That's the wrong drive. Inside the community drive, under the folder called community, there is a content calendar. And really, this is just a simple spreadsheet that sort of tracks whether or not we've got, you know, what things are going on. If we've got a talk coming up, if we've got a blog post to make, you know, produce, or to tweet about and promote. Know that this is here. Go make an entry and ping Ruth and get yourself promoted, I guess. Okay. So great. That leads us right into 2 other things to note, is that KubeCon's coming up. We're going to be involved in, or be delivering 2 different sessions. One session is on service mesh interface. So there will be 2 things. That there's a office project hours where a collection of maintainers will sit around and talk about SMI and what its purpose is, what it does, and receive feedback. Part of what we'll do there is we'll probably end up, we will certainly talk about SMI conformance, and we will certainly highlight SMI conformance report. This was shown to the collection of maintainers this week. There was some feedback given, mostly I think about like the amount of red on the page and what can be done to give people more details, or but people were interested nonetheless. That the red marks are no reflection of Meshery. It's a reflection of how well the implementations over here by each of these teams have been done. So they're quite interested in it. So that's what that session is about. Is about SMI. The other session is about well, it's about Get Nighthawk. It's about Meshery. It's about service mesh performance. It's pretty much about a lot of the projects that we do here. So that session is here's the deck. If you want to get a preview of what will be shown, go through the deck and it'll and you'll see your works. I had a question for everyone here. This falls in line with the tutorials that we give on the newcomers call. And this tutorial here, if we did a service mesh workshop, I think that was kind of the #1 piece of feedback that we'd gotten about what tutorials people would like to see. I think it was an intro to service mesh. Oh yeah, that's right. Geez. And Jubril, who's on the call. Jubril, I just remembered, you've been thinking on this topic, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Yeah, good. Okay. Well, I just had a thought on the topic as well.
Yeah, I'm actually working on slides and trying to build out a demo application so I can show how you'd get your applications to join a service mesh and all those other fun stuff.
Nice. Okay, good. Jubrila, are you referencing any of the workshops in the Layer5 repo with the, and by your silence, I assume that might be no.
Oh, no, I haven't actually seen this.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, just a brief note, because maybe others haven't seen them as well, but there's a Linkerd service mesh workshop and 2 Istio workshops, an intro and an advanced. And there's slides upon slides, and there are labs that people can walk through, and they walk through using Meshery. And so, Jubril, these would be, I'll message you and kind of tell you a bit more about these and see if they're useful, how they might be used.
All right.
Nice. Okay. All right. Next up, Vinayak.
Hi. So learn layer5.io. I think the development is yet to start. We are currently making mockups, I guess, for it. Am I audible?
Yep.
So as Lee told me that we are going to be using Storybook for the UI development part. So this is moreover like a open discussion of how to approach it.
Austin, Mr. Ogisa, do you mind, as we talk about this, do you mind, just highlighting the designs that you've got going on for this effort?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Well, just as an intro to the effort, so all of you had helped build Layer5.io. There are 2 subsites that are in various stages of works. So there's a subsite called discuss.layer5.io. I think it's pretty close to being ready to launch. If you all visit discuss.layer5.io, you'll notice maybe a familiar looking discourse, like a discuss forum. So that's very exciting. And we've talked about that the last couple of community calls. We've talked about learn.layer5 every now and again, somewhere in there. And it's finally come to a point where I think we're collectively ready for it. Like, hey, here's, and the project itself, this subsite is intended to build off of the workshops that are delivered, the training that's delivered, the interactive labs that are there, and really the fact that, well, the fact that Meshry itself, you imagine if there was a hosted Meshry, a play.layer5.io, which has long been a thought that we would do this. And so as a hint toward like what's after this, is a play.layer5.io, but and that would be just, a sandbox Meshry running so that people can just go there, play around, provision things, add apps, interact with everything. That the learn.layer5.io is is intended to bring together a collection of is to define learning paths for people specific to service mesh, and let them and define courses and let them walk through labs. It's more or less like growing into a learning management system. And so, Austin, if you're able to zoom in a bit and maybe show people some of the different pages, I don't think this isn't going to blow anyone away, but you've all seen different course catalogs in the past. And the point here is to disseminate this knowledge in a free way. Just, none of this will be gated content. If people want to track where they are and whether or not they've taken the courses and whether or not they've passed the quizzes and eventually get a certificate, then they'll need to register. They won't be charged for anything, but register so that they can track their progress and we can officiate a certificate of completion. And eventually, the Linux Foundation, I've talked with their general manager for training, which produces the Kubernetes certifications, all their certifications. As a matter of fact, he doesn't live too far from me. They've long wanted to collaborate on creating a service mesh certification. And so this effort will help toward that. Anyway, irrespective of the content itself, the site learn.layer5.io is nothing. I don't even think we have that domain registered yet, that subdomain. The framework that you all used and built upon, Gatsby for layer5.io, is React based. There's many components that can be used and reused to create what to the user will feel like an extension of the same site. And it'll feel like that because it will be that. This learning management system wouldn't be a separate technology. It wouldn't be literally a separate site. It'll be the same site. Austin is zooming in on the nav bar, which will look familiar but distinct from the nav bar on Layer5.io. And that's very much, that's intentional. Like this is if people spend time here and go through training, they're going to like probably spend a lot of time here, and it'll be fairly deep. Like there'll be learning paths and courses and quizzes and sections and etc. And so having a separate navigation for it probably makes a lot of sense. And if they sign into the site to track their progress and things, then it's, it's worth dedicating a subdomain to. But while that's separate, the goal is to make it feel very much so the same. And so, Vinayak, where does something like Storybook potentially come in here? What's the tie-in?
Okay, so I've used Storybook in the past for a couple of my own projects and some collaborative projects. So the main use of Storybook is to like develop individual components, like isolating them. Like in general, like when we make a component, we make it inside a section or on a page. So it gets affected by the other components which are on that same page, not directly, But in Storybook, it would be like we would have a separate window in which we will only be able to see that component alone. For example, there is a card catalog. We will be able to look at only the card catalog. So that would help the people who are like Augustine, who is like looking after the designs of the components, to look at those components in a much easier way.
And so, Vinayak, so being in a storybook ignoramus myself, I'm looking at this. I'm kind of browsing the site and sort of looking over um, Storybook and kind of understanding. I think two things that Storybook is, well, a set is a set of tools itself for React-based components, which is one thing. But I think another thing is that this site of theirs, this storybook.js.org/tutorials, this site is, well, this is a lot like what's being envisioned for learn.layer5.io, which is, well, that there's 9 chapters in this learning path, or that, there's a high level, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, call them learning paths or call them courses, or there's 9 chapters in here. So many people contributed. Get started. There's a table of contents. As you go into one of those, there's then showing you kind of where you are in the table of contents. It looks like there might be, there's different, there could be interactive labs happening in here. Could be movies or, code to, walk through. Could be, I think, part of the thought for us is that at the end of each section, there would be a quiz. And so there's a lot to all that. Vinayak, can you say more about how you think that we could potentially reuse? Yeah.
I guess you are talking about the UI that Storybook itself has. I guess their own website, and
Right.
like not the actual Storybook product.
Right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
and which is super confusing. Yes, and that's a good. Yep. Because it may be that use of Storybook itself, not their learning site. So yeah, reusing components and learnings from their learning site is mostly what I'm referring to. But
I'm not entirely sure. Like I will have to check if they have a component library in which they provide all the components that they have used on their website itself.
yeah, very good. And that's why I was going to have you speak with Tanush, because he's going to show you that, or show that to you.
Okay.
So I'll keep my fingers crossed in the meantime that is helpful and can help advance the initiative. If the prototype fails or we can't, that is no problem. We'll continue forth with the initiative.
Right, we can reproduce the UI that they are having, or a different type of UI for layer 5 itself, like making couple of components for ourselves.
Nice. So good. So this initiative, if you can't tell, is in its formative stages. If that type of a thing interests anybody here, please raise your hand. Please speak up. I think I'll point you to Vinayak for the moment. And Vinayak, I believe one of the things that Tanuj was going to do is both prototype reuse of Storybook's components from their site, and then also begin to get a design spec going to kind of write down the goals and how we might reuse and etc. And that's not to say that he was going to do it unto his own, but that's kind of the stage that we're in, and so lead the way.
Okay, I will get in touch with him.
Nice. Okay, VJ, the configuration wizard.
Yes, Lee. So Bart, Austin, and I, we've been working on this. So they've come up with a few uh, uh, with a few designs. And Austin, if you want to show that, that'll be fine. If you want to share your screen. So what uh, I did a little bit of I did some study of what happens in main.go. That is where the measure screen actually comes up, and where it does the initial uh, um, part of the configuration. That is, it takes the environment variables, and it gets the Kubernetes file and the current context, and then goes on to get the adapter URLs. And that is where the basic stuff that is happening. Let's go back to the first screen, Austin. So this is the first one is the screen. So there are certain things that we need to change here, that I want to have the design slightly different. But so one of the steps in the configuration is determining what the Kubernetes config file is. That is going to be the default file. So when we first come into this first screen, I think actually what we should do is I would like to change uh, some of the appearance. Now, I'm not a UI designer, so I might not be right on this. But what I think is I still would like to use some more of this particular space here, and I would like to have that initial configuration file shown here, and I would like the user to be able to switch between the configuration files. The reason being that when the user, if the default configuration file is not what the user wants, the user will be able to click on the cloud there, and that'll bring up a file picker, and then they'll be able to use a different configuration file. And then if they find that doesn't work, they can go back to the default. So when a user comes here and clicks on the configuration on the picker to get a new file, this will move over to a list box here, saying that it was a previous version, and so they might be able to go back and click on that, and so it'll be like a list box where it'll have all the various things. And I would like to have this thing moved over to this side, and the reason for that is when you click that, I mean, intuitively we go from left to right, right? So, if you have this button here at the left, and you're moving this, and you're saying is connected, so basically you're saying that what you are putting here is not it's secondary, or it's already I think that the on off switch should come after you have made all your choices. And so I would like to have this thing moved over, and have those boxes come up here. So that would be for the Kubernetes input file. So one of the things that I did is, I'm using this app to create. I started creating a React app. So the idea is to first, so we have something here. So I need to be, there are a few things that I have to do. The code for determining the URL, for the adapter URLs, and the code for determining the default Kubernetes configuration file is already there, because that happens right now. So what I need to be able to do is, when this configuration is when this Kubernetes file is chosen, uh, do that underlying orchestration under the code. So that is what I'm working on now, and so that is still in process. So Austin, if you can please move to the next screen. Okay. So here again, again, the idea is to keep the configuration wizard as as simple as possible, because keep some of the more complicated stuff in the main in the main thing. The idea is being that, with just the default configuration, Meshery, the configuration wizard will not fail, so that the user will not have to uh, troubleshoot what is causing the problem. Austin, can you move to the next one? The service meshes. So so based upon the adapter URLs, these are the service meshes that it's going to come up with. So the question here is, will the user be able to put in their own will they be able to specify their own instances of the adapters? That is, when you connect to an adapter, is it connecting to a specific instance of each of these service meshes? Is it always a single instance, or is it more than one one instance? Can you have many different instances existing on the mesh for each of these things here?
The latter. Yeah, it's nice and confusing. It's nice and powerful. Yeah, which is to say that yep, that let me or I'll suggest this, that VJ, you've got some great ideas. Austin, have you made a second version that implement VJ's ideas yet?
Okay. Part of the sketch VJ gave was implemented into this design which I sent. So we are to have a second meeting regarding the new sketches, the new ideas he has, because he is going to be building out everything with React.
Okay.
And
actually,
after,
okay. And but VJ, isn't Bart doing that?
Yes, actually, Bart was busy and we were supposed to meet, but I'm going to get hold of him, and then we're going to continue. We were planning on having a work session. So some of this stuff is going to be kind of, maybe it shouldn't be like that. It's going to be evolutionary and iterative, So
totally. No, I think it should be like, no, that's actually, you took the words out of my mouth. That's pretty much what I was going to say, is like your question about the challenge or the individual Meshery adapters, like the one for Linkerd, when it's oversimplified in this user interface. And that's actually intentional. Is like the Meshery adapter for any given service mesh, like the one for Linkerd, for example, you can, as a user, you can deploy an instance of that Meshery adapter. That Meshery adapter is stateless. And by that, what I mean is, when you, as a user of Meshery's UI, tell the UI, I would like to reconfigure or do something to a Linkerd service mesh. Well, it might be that you're running 15 different Linkerd service meshes. That's totally legitimate use case. When Meshery goes to interface with each of those different individual 15, as a user, you probably need to indicate which of those 15 you want to perform that operation on. Well, in this UI, and it isn't just this UI, it's all of Meshry's UI, that isn't, that's the UX needs to be improved. It is possible to do that, to specify which one you want to send it to, but an individual Meshry adapter, it can talk to 15 different service meshes of the same type. Or it's a very flexible system, or you can take and deploy 5 instances of the Meshry adapter for Linkerd, for example. And you can have each of those talking to in 5 different Linkerd service meshes. So it's a highly configurable deployment style based on user preference. And so I don't know that it's as well, or I'm sure that this is not a popular document, but if you go into Meshry's docs, which by the way are getting long enough, they're getting long, which is nice. There's using multiple, let me blow this up a little bit, using multiple Meshry adapters. I'm sorry, like this is the only page, I think this is the only page that has a silly recording of me. You don't have to listen to the recording, but what the page says is that you can load up like 10 instances of a single service mesh adapter. You'll see it in the UI. Actually, I'll challenge any one of you to be the first to send in a screenshot that has multiple instances of the same service mesh running, which I believe you would eventually see in this demo. But it's one of the powers of Meshry that isn't well known, but it's pretty cool, and it speaks to some good architectural design. So good. When's the meeting that you guys have for this next revision?
I'm going to. We were supposed to meet yesterday, and then so I'm going to arrange one as soon as possible. And in the meantime, yes, we did fall a little bit behind, but I'm trying to get a React app up. So the idea is, we are going to have a point in Meshry just before it brings up the web page for Meshry, where you will have a little box that says, where it says, do you want the configuration wizard or not?
Okay, but not as a gating, okay, not as a gating modal, right? Just a dismissible tooltip.
Right. It'll have like cancel yes or no or something like that. Something like that, that will come up before when we run when we make run local, it will bring up this box first before it brings up the Meshry page, because the configuration all this will run before that, because the configuration has to run before that page comes up.
Okay. Good. I have some info, more data points to give you. That in general, that's the right heading. That like we want to like part of the point of the configuration wizard is to just like provide a guarantee that anyone who deploys Meshry will have it working, will have it running, because if they walk through the wizard, like there's no way that they're not successful. And so getting that up in front of people's faces to do that as the first thing, that makes a lot of sense.
And I think that we can guarantee that by just using the defaults that Meshry is doing right now.
Cool. Nice. Hopefully the next meeting will include Bart, right? He'll be there as well.
Right, and hopefully we'll have something more that works a little bit more, and
Nice.
that's the actual manipulation of the stuff. And
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thanks for that, VJ. By the way, I didn't give you any time to prep to actually go over that today. So thanks for um, obliging.
thank you.
Abhishek, you're up.
I'm audible, correct?
Yep.
I hope I'm audible.
You are.
Okay, that's great. First attempt. So I'll be displaying a small item that got established recently, which was to bring adapter versions uh, to the Measure dashboard. I'll quickly share my screen to show that. All right. So I think I've got Measure running in my local. So I'm just verifying that. All right. I'll use my Chrome for this. Uh, cool. For safe side, I'll just log out and log in. So I started my Meshery with, as you can see, Meshery and just one of the adapters, which is Istio. I had configured in my local config for that. So and so yeah, so as you can see here, my adapter got detected automatically, and if you hover on it, the message brings up the version, which is a part of the statement, which says is your adapter version and the version name on whatever the port it is running on. So it's a minor change or initial setup where we've established on bringing the version outside to the dashboard. We'll be moving that in the future to a much better place. For now, it's on the hover message. So that's about what I wanted to show.
Nice. Feedback for Abhishek? Any or questions maybe? Fair enough. I take that as a positive sign, Abhishek, that's probably is intuitive. I think that will be really helpful. It's funny. I think of Husseina a lot when I think, or she comes to mind when I think of that feature. Husseina had been instrumental in helping troubleshoot some Meshery user challenges when we were delivering the IstioCon workshop, and I know that as you go to troubleshoot a potential bug with a user, being able to ascertain what versions of the individual Meshery components it is that the user is running, it's pretty critical to like understanding the environment and what's going on. And so getting that information exposed, oh, so helpful. This reminds me actually, Piyush, we had recently spoken about the notion that there's a Meshery system check command that could also be quite useful in this same context. And we don't have to cover, we're not going to cover this, but this is an interesting concept, a diagnostics tool, a pre-flight checker and a post-flight checker to verify the health of Meshery's systems and the underlying platforms upon which Meshery is reliant. And so some of these aren't the these aren't the features that necessarily attract users to using the tool, but these are absolutely the features that retain users once they're here and enable us to support them as they go to use the tool. So those types of things are fantastic. I'm excited to see that, Abhishek. It's helpful. So we're about out of time, so which means that we probably won't go through this. I'll probably leave you all with this link. I figured that it's been a long time, and as a matter of fact, I'm not sure if we've ever done it on this call. I don't know, but that we'd gone over what we do here, or like what the projects are, and the fact that when I tell you that there's some of you are working on Get Nighthawk, that there's like half of you on the call, I imagine, that are saying, get what? And which is bad, because if you're here on the call, you should at least be cursorily familiar with each of the projects that are going on and whether or not they're interesting to you and how they're being represented to the rest of the world. And so in the community meeting minutes is a link to this deck in case you want to go over it. I suppose that in 2 minutes, I'll hit highlights like this. I know that there are at least 2, if not 3 projects on here that most of you aren't familiar with. So we were just mentioning Get Nighthawk. The logo has just been slightly modified recently. This service mesh patterns, some of you have seen demonstrations of that on this call, and service mesh patterns is actually the focus of the V060 mesh release, which is the active one that we're in. So it's a good one to, maybe that's just the right thing to highlight here, is service mesh patterns. I'm going into full screen mode, and someone will interrupt me if you can't see this. But there are we're defining like 60 something patterns and of how you can use a service mesh, what they're used for, and how to do that well. How if you can do circuit breaking, for example, with a service mesh, what is that, and how do you know that you're doing it right? Are you opening the circuit too quickly? Are you reconnecting it too quickly? There's various considerations, and so each of these patterns espouse a best practice, and each of the patterns are describable in a JSON file, a simple pattern file or a YAML file. Those patterns are importable into Meshry. Meshry will read the file and execute on the file. So if you want to configure circuit breaking and maybe even test it out, Meshry will do that. Meshry can test it out because Meshry can generate load and see if you overload the circuit, if it'll open up. And it's really how Meshry does, in a nascent way, does that today in a nascent way. So we've got our work, that's why we're mid-flight on this V06 release. What's even more helpful is when you can visualize those patterns so that you can, as a regular human, understand what these things are. Seeing them visually, at least for me, really helps. And so there's work going on this visual topology. This is just a mock-up of the visual topology that's been demoed a couple of times. And so I don't know if Dhruv is still on, or Soham, or the other folks that are working on this, but we should probably plan for another quick demo of the progress and begin to open this up to the community here so that this visual topology, the alpha, that others can start to use it and make comments on it and engage in it if they want to. So the rest of this deck gives an overview of different projects, different things that you all do here. And I'll leave that for your digestion. Okay, we're a minute after. If we missed anything today, you'll bring it up in the Slack channel. You'll note it there. But I appreciate I appreciate all of you that shared today and all of you that give feedback. You might know this, that when you know the feeling when you share something and people have comments for you, you know how that feels good. And so thanks to all of you who do, give that feedback, and all of you who put your neck out there to share something. It's always yeah. Okay. Nice. Great call. Very nice to see all of you. Very nice to see all of you, or some of you, in person as well. Piyush, I wish that I could sit next to the window like that. That'd be nice. A cool breeze down the back of my neck. I've got a green screen if that's okay. Thanks a lot, all. See you all next week.
Everyone, have a great week.
Bye, Lee. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye guys.
Bye.